Hello friends, family and other creatures of the sea. Welcome back to a high level best of 3. Today in the bottom left spawning as our blue Terran player. It is Gumiho. And in the top right as our red Protoss playing for Team Matcherino, it is the one and only Astrea. The man, the myth, the legend, the guy who has build orders for days and has days to craft build orders. As we see a... ooh, look at that. 17 scout here coming out, or at least checking to make sure there's no eBay block on that natural, make sure there's no barracks hidden behind this natural, goes back upstairs. A no scout opener here out of Astrea. Interesting stuff, as Gumiho opens up with a very delayed gas. And this is something typically Gumiho. It really is. Because it's one of those things that it gives a minor advantage for the Terran. It allows you to get solid saturation on the minerals and thus get a quicker natural command center often, but at the same time it also means you can't really afford an extremely fast Reaper. You can't afford a reactor first. Your factory is delayed. Now take a look at the CC timing. That's almost 5 seconds faster than it usually is. When down at 135, usually 139 or maybe 140 on this particular map. And see how this is still going to work out here. We see that reactor. Ooh, second marine actually. I thought he was just straight up gonna go into a reactor, but it might actually be triple marine into factory still. Which would be very different from what we usually see. I wonder if this is worth it if you're going into factory builds, but Gumiho definitely believes that it is. And I take my cues from Gumiho, so in that case I also believe it's worth it. Bunker will be thrown down here on the low ground as a sentry comes out as the first unit and it's going to get chrono boosted. This was of a Corby for Nexus, which is all very interesting. Blind battery being thrown down at this point as well. As it's sentry into stock, we have a chrono on this Nexus as well. So a heavy focus here on the eco. Let's see where this next chrono is going to go. If this once again goes down on a Nexus, I would be somewhat surprised. We have a 3 marine plus SCV move out across the map. Now this is absolutely unheard of. You legit never see this type of stuff. I have no clue what the plan here is. What? I mean, this is a crazy move. This really is just a crazy move. In no world should this ever work. Okay, here we go. We have the SCV moving in. Sees that there's a sentry, sees that there's a stalker. SCV doesn't get any extra information though. It's going to be a Twilight Council behind this. Hard to guess that that's what's happening though, if you're Gumiho in this case. Follows it up with a Hellion. Just a single one into mines. Reactor now producing marines at home, as Gumiho, I guess, has half a worker more than he usually would have at this time. And, well, I guess he lost that worker going across the map just now, so... really no tangible advantage gotten from this early game. As we see Astrea throw down the robotics facility as well, and being slightly supply blocked. 45 out of 46, no pylon on the way. This warp kit is about to finish up, and that means you want to warp something in most of the time. These pylons are simply going to be a little bit too late for all of that. Third base on the way, or wants to be on the way. So far hasn't actually started yet. That probe gets killed by that Hellion. Lots of cash in the bank here for Astrea. As the medevac now finishes up and should fly to the other side of the map with this one mine. Instead just boost across the map, completely empty. Well, so far with good calls. This has been a surprising game to say the least. A very surprising game to say the least. It's medevac. I'm not quite sure what the plan here is. This is a move that we used to see sometimes if you're going for a tank push. You send an empty medevac across the map to kind of trick the stalkers to stay at home. And then you get to move across the map for free with your tanks, which is obviously great. Sometimes we've seen single mine drops as well with that exact same purpose. But just an empty medevac to go for a scout. I think he might be afraid of phoenixes. And he wanted to get some information, some intel as to what this was exactly. This mine does hit the hallucination. Deals a little bit of damage here to its own SCVs. Well, a little bit. These guys are practically dead. A probe sneezes in that direction and these SCVs will die. Third base is finishing up as we have the second tank now on the way. There is a Raven out as well. And Stim has started with double Marauder production kicking off as well. Templar Archives behind all of this for Astrea. 519 is kind of late for the Templar Archives. I wonder if you can still get Storm in time to be there for Stim. I want to say that the answer is going to be no. Templar Archives takes 36 seconds. Storm takes quite a while as well. Even with Chrono Boost, you're still looking at a time that's going to be longer than what Stim is going to last. Or that Stim needs to finish up. Combat Shield now also has started. So a fairly calm game here in the early stages of this best of 3 and of this first map here on Ancient Cistern. Storm now starts. We have Chart, that's never gonna finish in time either. Is it? It depends a bit how tight Gumiho is going to hit with Stim, I guess. Most of the time Terrans start moving out as their Stim finishes rather than moving out to hit when Stim finishes. But we see that the Gumiho actually here is pretty keen on going for it. Well, infantry weapons level 1 is about to finish up. This is a nice move here. Boosted out with a single med effect with a bunch of units. Might actually catch some stalkers here, no, but will push them away. And that now means that this army gets to move across the map for free. Storm is still about 20 seconds away. Can Gumiho close the gap in 20 seconds? I'm not so sure if he can. Charge, well, is about to finish up as well in about 15 seconds. These upgrades are absolutely vital to Astrea's survival in this game. Oh, this Marine army actually is getting caught off guard. That's 4 Marines that die instantly for no real reason whatsoever. Raven makes its way around. Is going to drop a couple of auto turrets, I guess. It's the only thing I really see viable here. As Gumiho continues pushing forward with these 3 tanks, looking for a position, looking for a place to fight from. I think he's found it here. Ooh, loads up 3 tanks. Where are you going? Towards the low ground? Okay, sieges them up. Marine Marauder stays at a bit of a distance, now gets in towards the main base. How's Astrea gonna take care of this? Entire army here is on the low ground, which means that these tanks will fall rapidly. With all these Templar on the high, that is on the low ground as well, that actually doesn't help in dealing with this army. There's no prism here. Where's the prism? It's on the other side of the map. Not here to help out. If these Templars were in a prism, that could have been real nice. Still, this is a good situation overall for Astrea in my mind. 130 supplied to 124. We have Storm versus no Ghost. There's now a Ghost Academy on the way, but it's a little bit late. I think the Raven has been taken out as well. The mine count is absolutely pathetic, of course, due to that triple tank opener. And against this type of army, you definitely prefer having mines over tanks, at least majority of the time. Fort base now goes down for Astrea, and I think Astrea is at the point where he can throw down any type of tech as well. Like, he could go for that RoboBay, the second robotics facility. I wouldn't even mind seeing a second forge added on top of that, as well as gases 5 and 6. Prism is still out. Could try and go in at some point. I also wouldn't completely mind a storm drop on some workers. I think that is usually actually kind of a good call in these situations where ghosts are about to pop out, Templars are losing a little bit of their viability. Having some storms around would actually be fantastic, especially on those SCVs. It says, oh my god, it's a double expand here for Astrea, straight in a line down as well. So really a vertical way of expanding. We have a split off of this army from the main. Astrea has a really solid setup defensively, but it's kind of lacking in tech. He really is kind of lacking in tech. He's adding more and more Immortals, but I'd love to see that RoboBay. I'd love to see that second robotics facility as well. I think these things are all lacking, and I'm afraid here of a 2-2 timing that Gumiho could potentially hit, which Astrea might not be quite ready for. Ghost count is now at 3, so we see some of these Templar moving out on the map. Salad, waiting for this fort base to land. Just going to be built in position here, and Astrea most likely is going to try and deal with that somehow, some way. Big storm here, connects with a lot of Marauders. At the same time, Gumiho unstimmed, taking out a bunch of these Stalkers. Double panic storms get hit. Not the greatest hits, honestly. Not the greatest hits. Still, no extra upgrades here for Astrea, no extra tech here for Astrea, but he is on 5 bases. Gate count doesn't quite do the eco justice currently though. We're at 80 workers, 5 base, 4 gas. I feel like we could go higher than 8 gates currently, up to 14, up to, you know, I almost had 16 there, and I do feel that. Definitely think at least 4 to 6 extra gates need to be added. pretty shortly. Otherwise, he's going to be in some major trouble. Here comes an EMP, catches the Immortal, takes out this Templar energy as well, tries to turn into an Archon, as now Astrea needs to kind of rotate back home. Is there any threat towards the bottom 5th base? There's not. So this is going to be the only fight that Astrea needs to focus on right now. He's doing an okay job as the Immortal starts showing up. Another EMP does get to connect with them though, and that is an issue. Battery in the back, Super Battery does heal up that one. Damaged Immortal, mines setting up. That's 4 mines, and that's pretty much... that means that this is now an area that I don't think Astrea can actually cross without detection. He's going to try to get through it, but mines are hitting. Immortal's getting splashed upon. Templar's not quite dealing the damage that they need to, as Tutu is about to finish up. I think this situation is going to turn even worse here for Astrea. Astrea had a great start here, being up in supply at like the 8-minute mark, having insane eco, just not finding the positioning to deal with Gumiho's army. This was not an army that should have killed him, but it did. Or at least it definitely did. This is not a fight that Astrea can win anymore. Even a single EMP could, you know, cause some serious issues. Storms are blanketing this army, but it's not going to be enough because there's nothing to finish it. Medeffects are empty as GG gets called. Gumiho wins game number 1 in a very frustrating first game here for Astrea. Now imagine you're Astrea in that game. You don't scout, life is good. You have a decent eco, open up with a sentry, you're safe. Have your Templar archive, Stormers. You think you had sick eco as well? Think back of that game, like what went wrong? I think it's a positional issue there, but I think it's also just an issue of what felt to me like switching into a different tag slightly too slow. Maybe I'm incorrect here, but it often does feel like that. If you just have Storm, at some point you're going to need to make the transition into Colossus or into some type of disruptors. Like some secondary form of splash, because the Templar are just quite weak against EMPs. And also they're not as great against Marauders, which is really the main issue for Protoss, is that the Terran army just consists of so many Marauders, which yes, they take damage from Storm, they take a lot of damage, but they're so beefy. They're so beefy, and if there's many, there's a lot of medevacs, and you don't get too many Storms off, it can be kind of tricky at times, and combine that with mines, like you need something to clear mines. That is the one thing that I do know for sure. If you can't clear mines, and there are ghosts, and you have no splash, but Storm, then life is just going to be hard, because clearing mines with Storm is very close to being impossible. Because you need 2 Storms per mine. It's simply not worth it. It is simply not worth it. This is also an interesting build order here. I think we're seeing this was a reactor first. I'm sorry I missed that, but this looks to me like a reactor first into 4 Reaper, 2 Hellion harassment. Now this is a significant investment here coming out of Gumiho, but this is also the perfect map for it. Why is this the perfect map, one may ask? Very simple. It's because Protoss needs an additional pylon to block off this path. Now, I do believe that Astrea is as well set up as you possibly could be to deal with this particular threat. However, he still only has 3 gateway units. Yes, he has a battery with it, which means that he can't die, but he could lose a lot of probes potentially. And I'm kind of wondering how Gumiho is going to try and play this. Okay, so far, try to aim for those units. Now Super Battery gets activated. Probes getting pulled off the line here. Gumiho getting caught in a bit of a corner. Very solid defense so far here for Astrea, who loses 3 workers, kills 4 Reapers. 4 freaking Reapers have gone down. 1 Hellion so far. This Hellion might get 1 more worker kill, but honestly even that would surprise me. She's just going in for the scout instead. Hasn't even seen... No wait, it has, right? Just died, so I missed this. Okay, yeah. Has seen the Twilight Council, so has the full information. I guess he was scouting to see if there was a Dark Shrine of some sorts, maybe? It's the only thing I can really imagine. This is an insane call to make for Gumiho. To go for a 4-marine tank drop at this point? That seems really crazy, knowing that your opponent has Blink on the way. That is a really weird move, actually. It's a move I don't approve of at all. There's a 3rd gate on the way. There's a significant Stalker force. 3rd base also coming down now. Unless he idles in the dead space. I don't understand why the tank is in here. This seems crazy. boosting in as well. That's just triple crazy. This is insane. This is such a risky move. This is such a risky move. He's probably gonna pay a price for it. No, boosts out just in time. That was so close. What a wild move out of Gumiho. Kills 2 workers, forces a pool away. That carried so much risk. And now we're gonna see another move out? Gumiho isn't even aware on whether there is a third base or not. This is such a wild play. Such a wild play. If he actually commits to this, I'd be proper shocked. I think this is a fake push out meant to maybe clear this observer. If Gumiho decides to go home now or just occupies this location, I actually would like this a lot by him. I would like this a lot. Astrea's too afraid right now to tech into anything impactful. Astrea's stuck on 2 gases. Yeah, I think this looks good. I think this looks real nice for Gumiho, as long as he doesn't actually push out. I think he's in a fabulous position. But really, given the condition that he can't really push out, like he really can't push out here. This is not it, I think. He's gonna lose 1 tank for free, trying to siege up. 2nd tank in some trouble as well. It's too many stalkers. There's no stim. Hey, are we watching the same situation here? I don't understand this. Charge is about to finish up as well. We're 6 minutes and 20 seconds into the game. He's moving across the map with an army that was good a minute ago. I don't get this at all. I don't. Hey, this is gonna get cleaned up. He'll lose everything. He'll kill 3 stalkers, maybe a sentry if he targets well. What a ridiculous thing to do. Had so many opportunities to move back as well. I don't like calling out errors because sometimes I just don't understand certain things. Like maybe there was a goal here that he wanted to achieve, that he believed he could achieve safely. But I don't see what that goal was. I don't see in which situation. Like I don't see any timeline in which Astrea dies to this or takes significant damage. And I see like 10 different timelines in which Gumiho gets cleaned up and then loses the game. What an odd way to play that build out. So Astrea, well, ties up the series now. I feel like I've had this quite a bit with Gumiho as well recently, where I like a lot of the things he does, and then sometimes there's just a stinker in there, you know? I don't know. It doesn't feel correct. I don't think that was a very difficult call to make either. So whenever I think it's important that I try as much as possible to understand the process of everyone that plays, because sometimes you just don't understand how someone is thinking, or someone is willing to take a risk that I don't agree with. So if someone goes for a coin flip that has a very small payoff and potentially huge pitfalls, I often, as a more, a safe player, would say, oh, I don't like this decision that much. But I don't like that decision because it goes against what I think is an acceptable risk. So I could say something like that, and that's what it means. But in the previous game, there was the decision there to move out. I saw no upside at all. Like there is no build order, no follow-up that Astrea can do from his starting point, which Gumiho is aware of, where this doesn't get cleaned up. Like there is no best case scenario. The best case scenario is that Gumiho loses his entire army every single time. Like these are the type of decisions where I find it difficult, and it's just a mistake out of Gumiho. But he had so much information as well, which makes it even weirder for me that it happened the way it happened. Right? If you're limited on the information, once again, I can emphasize with all of that. But that wasn't the case. There was a lot of information, continuous stream of information, multiple points at which Gumiho could have decided, hey, I want to go back home. And yet he never did. So I think it just was a complete misunderstanding of the game. Like sometimes what happens in your head is that you have a plan that you're going to execute, and something in that plan, like your opponent does something different than you would have expected. And rather than adapting to that, you just kind of lose like this. So the plan he was going for, the build he was going for, might have been okay against Phoenixes or something, or against a Robo first. But he already had the confirmation it wasn't that and was stuck in like his old thinking patterns as like, okay, this is a Phoenix game or this is a Stargate game. Because these games play out very differently. Even against a Stargate opener, I don't really see this working either. But maybe Phoenix Colossus, maybe there's something there. I don't know. I think it has to be something along those lines. It's a confusing move out altogether. And I hope that Gumiho can recover from that. Because that was, 6 significant mistakes. I don't think his position was bad at all last game either. Like, he took some risk earlier with that tank drop, which in my mind was unacceptable, but it paid off. And these are the type of risks that Gumiho often takes as a player. I can understand these. But so his position wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. I think his position was completely playable. Had a Raven, had a couple of tanks. Could have gone for a tank push. Could have played out similar as to game number 1. Didn't look great there for him either, but Gumiho has a real good grasp of the mid game. Well, a lot of Terrans right now seem to have a real good grasp of the mid game. Maybe Terran is just powerful in the mid game. Food for thought, maybe. We have a 4 mine drop here being sent out across the map fairly late, as we also have a random Marine Reaper push once again. Gumiho just hugely fond of these seemingly random move outs that carry so much risk. They carry so much risk. If you were to do this against max packs, you'd just get eaten by his 4-gate blink 5 times in a row, Gumiho. You know that as well. But Gumiho's a player that... well, that gets a lot of freaking damage apparently, because we get 12 kills over here with 4 mines, and... this isn't even getting cleaned up yet. What a build! Now uses the medevac. Could actually use it maybe to boost out. Is that something you'd want to do here? Is that something you're comfortable with? I'm not sure if it is. Perhaps waiting for a blink of some kind. And then tries to move out. I mean, he's denying so much mining time here. This is crazy damage. So now this medevac will boost away by itself, leaving those Marines behind. This was a lot of damage though. Gumiho immediately sets up for another move out, which I'm curious to see whether he's going to commit to that. I'd be surprised. The only way that Gumiho can lose in my mind right now is by dying in the next 35 to 40 seconds. The moment Stim finishes up, the moment a third tank ends up arriving here, I think life is seriously going to suck for Astrea. Raven gets sent across the map as a new Raven gets produced. So we just see a huge focus here on unit production. Gumiho understanding his position is phenomenal and wants to just keep it. This is a great tank spot as well. So difficult to blink into. I'm loving this defensive setup here. Out of Gumiho. Raven uses auto turret here. Both tanks will end up on sieging. This barracks will have its construction cancelled for now. Stim might get sniped. We will need to see an SCV pool here. SCV pool is a little bit late. Oh, Stim not quite gonna go down as an auto turret gets thrown down in the main as well. 3 workers go down. Stalker gets warped in, will take care of this Raven, or at least push it away temporarily. 44 workers to 44 workers. We have very poor infrastructure here right now for Astrea. We have poor overall army count as well. Terrible tech. No extra gases on the natural either. So yeah, this situation is genuinely quite bad right now for Astrea. I think this might actually be the worst situation he possibly could have found himself in a game like this. Raven behind the mineral line as well, can come back at any point. Gonna need either 3 stalkers or a battery plus 1 or 2 stalkers. This by itself is not enough. Once again, same move that we saw in game number 1, where a single medevac boosts out. No, he decides to change. Okay, he's just gonna drop back into the main base, which is kind of odd, I guess. I would have loved to see him go behind again, try to catch these stalkers. But that's not actually the plan. Instead, we see just these Marines in the main base. Not doing anything, not even with the main army, which is odd. Maybe he's expecting a prison to fly in? Maybe Gumiho has no clue what he's doing either. Completely possible. 4 tanks are out. That's a significant tank count here. This SCV is going to build a CC on location, Gumiho style. Gumiho only builds CCs on location, never somewhere else. 111 energy on this Raven currently as well. It's definitely going to allow for some major harassment later on in this game. Prism coming out. We have more zealots being warped in. Ooh, Stalker's in a bit of trouble. I think Astrea might actually just be dead. Oh, while I say that, tanks are unsieged. A little bit of indecisiveness here coming out of Astrea. Ooh, still gonna go in, take out some tanks, but I think these Marines just a little bit too strong. If you have tanks to tank, the Marines can dish out a lot of damage. That's usually how it works. You want to clear the tanks, but you also don't want to keep the Marines alive. Now, this is a significant amount of Zealots. Good positioning, though, out of Gumiho, creating an artificial choke here between a tank, a wall, and with a couple of Marines blocking. Tanks are going to get taken out. Zealots are going to get it in the end. But it's still 89 supply against 70. There are no... Well, there's nothing here that's happening currently for Astrea that is good. Everything that's happening right now for Astrea is bad. He's getting out-tacked. He's getting out-produced soon as well. He's gonna get out-mined the moment that third base finishes up. There's already a bigger army here for Gumiho, who's now adding in Liberators as well, which is somewhat of a surprise to me, but I mean, I don't completely mind it. I'm actually kind of okay with this. Still not a single forge out for Astrea. Astrea's forced into all-inning here, because the longer this game goes, the worse it's going to get for him. The moment a ghost pops out, this game 100% ends. But even versus 1-1 is just going to freaking suck. Astrea once again coming in with a major run by. 6 Zealots. Actually, that doesn't feel super major, but it's like half of his Zealot count overall. So, yeah, that's quite a bit actually. Marines Marauders not being contested with at all, as Astrea just doesn't have the units. Zealots being sniped while warping in. Stalkers now falling as well on the other side of the map. Liberators using up defensively. GG gets called here by Astrea as Gumiho wins the series in a very clean game number 3. Beautiful 4 Widow Mine drop with Marine Reaper push out. It's a build we hardly ever see, but boy did it deal some serious damage over here. And that is going to be it for me today, as well as for Gumiho and Astrea. Big up to Gumiho for winning this series. Some nice builds, some nice plays, some less nice builds, and some less nice play in the second game, but everything else pretty much freaking perfect. And yeah, thanks for watching. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and ciao.